Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 5 of the anime series, Aria the Scarlet AA. And this was definitely an interesting way to follow up with the quartet battle. Of course, the teams 4-on-4 of Akari, Raika, Shino, and Kirin, respectively, as well as Takachiho, Fuma, Yu, and Yaya. And, it was interesting, a large chunk of this episode, once you had Takachiho and Akari going up against each other, really kind of reminded me, if you've ever played Metal Gear Solid, the original PS1 Metal Gear Solid, that battle in the early going of that game between Solid Snake and Revolver Ocelot, only with just like none of the tension and a lot of WTF in this episode, at least. There's a lot of like ambushes, bait and switch stuff going on. From right out of the gate, you have Yu and Yaya jumping Akari and Shino sort of taking command of them so Akari can keep moving and all this kind of stuff. You have Reika and Kirin, respectively, coming under the attack of Fuma. Fuma, once again, being a highlight of this series, being very much sort of the Reki of this series, I would say, if it weren't for the fact that Reki was a saving grace of this episode. Having a lot of screen time, I wish they would give her her own series, do a co-op between her and Fuma, my two favorite characters in all of Aria, the Scarlet Ammo, the entire universe, a badass sniper and a badass ninja. How could you go wrong? But I mean, this should have been an action-heavy sort of episode, and the action sequences were just really kind of crappily animated, and a lot of it depended on with Raika and Kirin going up against Fuma because of her ninja capabilities. I guess her favorite movie must be Batman Begins because of that whole smoke bomb misdirection thing. Half of that battle is just, fog. You don't even see much going on. But I did like the little bait and switch that Kirin was responsible for when it turns out she hadn't buried their flag. She buried one of their sort of, attack flags, one of the B flags, and she was actually carrying it on her person, their main flag. But this whole battle, the majority of the episode between Akari and Takachiho, respectively, one-on-one, was just like, what are you doing, Akari? She has so many opportunities that she could run at Takachiho, and she's not. I know they're using rubber bullets. They can still be deadly if, shot in the head and everything like that. But, I mean, there are so many opportunities when Takachiho is reloading, very much like that Metal Gear Solid boss battle with Revolver Ocelot, where you lunge at her, you do some damn thing. And the entire arena they're, doing this battle in, it's weird, there are all these bicycles, there's like a, moped over here on the side, which comes heavily into play. I mean, I didn't think this thing had worked since Fooly Cooly, and now it's, the highlight of its whole career is being used by Akari to go up this, sandhill to get the opposing faction's flag and all this kind of stuff. It was weird and very strangely paced, the entirety of this, the action portion of this episode. It just didn't feel like action at all. It felt like, what is going on here? And then, of course, Akari's team wins, all told, because of that bait and switch with the flags. Fuma doesn't even get to, have it be a draw for her team and everything. And so the battle itself really was like the least interesting aspect of the episode, which is really a shame, but of course it kind of also made up for it, at least for me personally, with the introduction of whom I'm led to believe is sort of the arch nemesis of this series for Akari herself. Very much sort of the Riko to Aria, if you're familiar with season 1. And we also see Riko actually is well known to whomever this girl is, this brunette chick with like, white stuff in her hair, like white ties down one side of her hair. And she's got like a little pipe that she has, and she has this really elaborate like machination setup where like it looks like a ball, like a golf ball or an egg, and it's rolling down these like pins and everything. And in the entire framework of where they're having this battle, they have all this scaffolding which then starts coming undone because of this brunette girl's, machinations and fooling around and playing with this whole thing. We see that Aria is, sort of suspicious that something's going on. Somebody is in the shadows, somebody is doing something, and she's very much trying to figure out what that's all about. Of course, she's the one who puts in the call to Reki and gets Reki involved. And Reki, again, saving grace of this episode because of her sniper skills. she's firing all these like base, you know, components of that scaffolding that are coming loose that are potentially going to cut the girls in half down at the bottom of this entire framework. And she's shooting them so it creates kind of like a little protective barrier, almost like a little hut, kind of, to keep both Akari and Takachiho safely within it and all this kind of stuff. All the other girls, Shino had just gotten there, and Raika and Kirin are showing up toward the end. Luckily, you know, all of that scaffolding, all those chunks have fallen by that point. And here's where it gets really frickin' WTF interesting. From within this metallic, you know, hut that has been constructed out of all these pieces by Reki, do we see Akari making this hand gesture 3 times? And at first when she's doing it, I'm like, are they just reusing animation? Was the video skipping? I didn't know what was going on. But then we see this electricity junt out from within, and Aria takes notice of this. And I'm like, what? Whoa. Because you've had all of this flashing back to, you know, Akari's youth with her younger sister, and I think it's her younger sister. And it seemed like their town was in flames. I don't know where their parents are, if they're even alive, all this kind of stuff. It seemed like something very ominous and foreboding was happening. And if you call back to the flash forward at the start of the series in episode 1, you have Akari and Aria effectively facing off, and they're on seemingly similar footing and similar levels as far as their skills goes. So to have Akari suddenly emit this electricity power within the confines of this series, it's not unimaginable. You know, we have a lot of supernatural elements kind of just put in there in season 1 that didn't really make a lot of sense to me at the time, but now this makes much more sense knowing that that is the foundation of this series. It's just like WTF, because then it's also kind of sort of forgotten in a way. Like Aria's just like, well, maybe it was a coincidence, maybe not. No, it wasn't a coincidence. You know, get on top of this girl, find out what the hell's going on here, like you were trying to do when you had Fuma doing your dirty work for you and getting the information for you. It's just like, whoa, Akari has powers. Okay, this is new. And so we're just going to be status quo next episode. We're not going to have any follow-up on that. I don't know. I guess I could say, like, this episode was a little all over the place. The action was not in any way intense. I can hardly even refer to it as being action, how poorly animated it was to justify any of that sequence, you know. Akari and her team, I really don't feel like they accomplished anything so much as just had their victory kind of handed to them, because we didn't really see a lot of effort on their part. And, you know, Takachiho just proved to be a noisy bitch like I figured she'd be. But, you know, I'll give it sort of some points for at least reminding me of a much greater battle in a video game, you know, Metal Gear Solid, as I say, Revolver Ocelot. And the only thing I can really take away from this episode, the highlights, were Fuma in action, even though we didn't get to see a whole hell of a lot of it thanks to the smog and the smoke she had erupting all over the place. The little bait and switch from Kirin to do with Fuma. Reki. Just all kinds of balls to the wall. Love that character. I want to see her and Fuma. I'm not even kidding. I want to see them have their own spin-off series. They are 2 awesome chicks, whichever way you want to look at it. And so yeah, I guess we'll see where we go from here. I guess. But Akari with powers, electricity powers, you know, Palpatine up in this bizzo. And it'll be interesting to see where we go from here with this villainess, with this Build-A-Better Mousetrap sort of machination that she had put into effect. Knows Rico very well and seems to be, I don't know, I'm led to believe, as I say, the arch nemesis of Akari and maybe Akari's family, but I don't know her name as yet. I don't know what her function is, her form and function in this series. We shall see. And I guess it's just bring on the next episode. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you've seen episode 5 of Aria the Scarlet Ammo AA, if it kind of left you flummoxed like it did me, if you weren't as impressed with it as you hoped you would be like I was. I don't know, kind of fell flat a little bit. But it still had redeemable aspects, and if you agree with me on those, Reki being involved, Fuma's ninjutsu and all of that stuff. And yeah, we can agree to disagree, or we can be, completely in line with each other. We'll see what happens next time. So otherwise, it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.